We move on now to the second quarter of this game, if you will, level 3, butter building. Here in this Kirby's Adventure walkthrough here on Video Games 101. This is the first area specifically, but just level in general in the game, where there is a hidden area which has a switch which we need to activate in order to get the 100% ending. Grab that bomb, we get the crash ability again, always useful for clearing a screen, a mini-boss. We actually have a mini-boss coming up, one we've already seen before, but here we go. Yeah, just use that crash ability right here. Give them a second to spawn and, you know, start coming at you before you use it, otherwise you could waste it if you use it prematurely, but get that microphone ability. We don't need a special ability to access the secret area, the first hidden switch. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So I'm not going to worry about losing the microphone ability here, but instead of going up the ladder, drop down, knock out these blocks, go through the door, suck in that block and fire it at the bomb, go through this door, and we have the first hidden switch. Just jump right on it. So we'll open up a little mini-boss arena right there, but the main thing is we hit that switch. And again, we need to hit all, I think it's 17 switches in the game in order to get that 100% completion. And the extra mode unlocked at the end of the game. Look at that. Best jump we've had so far. We're surging from confidence after finding that first hidden switch. But there you go. Got one more here in Butter Building. Not until, I think, the 6th stage. So we got some time until then. And seeing as we have some time to kill right here, so we suck him out and grab that Maxim tomato. In case you needed it. Grab ourselves a laser and cool little effect right here, kind of the Battletoads effect to an extent, not being used in the same way that Rare used it in that final stage, the Revolution. Bad Memories. Again, we have a class on that game here on Video Games 101. You can check that out via the playlist in the description. One of our more memorable classes for a number of reasons. A lot of the TAs called out on me that day. I don't blame them. I understand why. Had a number of ringers helping me out that day, for better or worse. And the rehash of Grand Wheelie here. Sword's not the best move. You don't want to necessarily get in close against Grand Wheelie, but if you know the moveset, you know when they're about to launch at you, you can get some hits in. It's not the most effective, but we made it work. And we have the Rare Wheel ability. We'll see how this works. It's useful for getting around, especially this particular area. The level's designed in such a way that you don't need to worry about taking damage if you're using the Grand Wheelie right there. This is a tricky stretch right here. If you're not careful, you can lose one or both of these. It's also really easy to drop down when you're chasing one of these items and lose a life, so just kind of free fall into it and then immediately suck in that air to make sure you don't fall. And we have a new boss here, new mini-boss, Gary.
Boss beaters. All right, Bugzzy. Stay in the air until the bugs come out, then quickly move in, inhale one, fire it back at Bugzzy, and repeat the process. You'll take him down.
Good luck, Gary. Thank you very much. Yeah, those pincers right there. Just waiting for those bugs. A lot of times, yeah, that one. Bolt Shrew right there. And grab the backdrop for some reason. I guess because it does grab you and do that to you as well, but we'll use that on a few of the enemies in this next stage. It's kind of a fun move to do, just slamming them into the ground, but while we head to the next stage, let's get another Fluff fact about Kirby's Adventure from Fluff.
Kirby's Adventure was designed by HAL Laboratory, with one of the chief designers being none other than Satoru Iwata. We talked about this in our class on Adventures of Lolo, but Nintendo saved HAL from bankruptcy on the condition that they install Iwata as president, a role which he assumed at HAL in 1993. Iwata oversaw the development of the Pokemon and Super Smash Bros. Series before he went to the head of Nintendo's corporate planning division in 2000 and quickly ascended to the role of Nintendo's president until his death in 2015.
Thank you, Fluff. Yeah, we talked a lot about Iwata in our class on NES Golf. He was the programmer on that title, and we talked about that Very touching Easter egg that they included on the Nintendo Switch, I think it was. But yeah, you can check that out for more information on that. Sweet story, and a good class as well. Blaze brought it with his club guide in that one, which is pretty useful if you've ever tried to play NES Golf, as they don't give you a lot to go on. So yeah, his tips in that one really help out. But I digress. We have a bit of a maze here in this stage, and we'll show you the fastest way to get through it. We're having a little trouble on these spikes here. Just gotta thread the needle and not hit those enemies right there. A real hard time hanging on to this backdrop right here, but very satisfying move, as I mentioned. Just slam the enemies into the canvas, grab the maximum tomato right there. Do a little slide to get through that bomb there. And just smacking them into the ground. We just exhale our breath there to get through. Go up to the top and get to the end of the stage here. The museum here, where we have the first instance, I believe it's the first instance of the high jump ability here in Kirby's Adventure. It's a fun one where you can use it to jump through enemies and deal some damage right there. Certainly useful when your enemies are above you, flying. Anything in that situation. Plus, it's kind of functional too for getting around more easily. Not going to use it in this first stretch, just going to use the warp star to head to the next area right off the bat. Next section of this tower. And we have our next boss right here. And this is, alright, yes, just another rehash of these guys. High jump, not the best ability to have right here, actually. Probably objectively one of the worst, practically speaking, for trying to use it against these guys. Anything that fires would be much more useful in this situation, but yeah, so we'll just ditch that for now. You can just swallow the guys, or you can launch them at each other. When they're not all kind of in more convenient planes to hit one another with, sometimes it's just easier to suck them up and swallow the enemies and move on in that case. Grab our sword back here. It's the umbrella ability. We saw that in the intro. Here you just want to kind of slow hover this one. Plenty of power-ups to grab some health back here if you need it. Just gotta thread that needle to get that maximum tomato. There we go. Alright, we got our first quick draw here. I love the quick draw minigame. Pretty self-explanatory. Just hit that A button as soon as the enemy, our cute little cowboy hats, draw their gun. So 30's pretty slow. That's enough to beat that first one. You need to keep getting faster and faster, because they're going to draw a lot faster with each subsequent challenger which you come up across. There's 5 different challengers we take on, ending with King DDD. See, our time is getting better each time. I think we started at 30, then 15, couple 13s. Yeah, with King DDD, you basically need to anticipate, because, yeah, you need like a 10 or better to have a chance at taking him down. And so unless you just have crazy reflexes, it's near impossible. But you do get the 1-up for getting to the king, but yeah, extremely difficult. Sometimes it's just better off, since you do get that one misfire, if you will, the foul as they call it. Just, yeah, take your chance. Try to anticipate when he's going to draw and hit that button right then, just with a little leap of faith, essentially. Coming up on our next mini-boss, let's throw it back to Gary.
Bonkers. Want to keep distance? Stay to the side when he charges at you. He doesn't go across the full screen if he's on the opposite side. When he launches down into the ground with that hammer, suck in the stars and fire him back. He'll do a secondary projectile, which you can also suck out and fire back at him to get 2 quick hits in. Alternatively, you can also just use a skill if you've got one. He doesn't move all that fast. After he does one of his attacks, he can get a lot of hits in. Pretty safe. Take him down.
Thank you, Gary. Love the hammer ability. Probably my favorite in the entire game. Just very powerful, knocks back your enemies, and he gets those swings off really quickly. Not to mention you can only access certain hidden areas when you have that hammer. So the next hidden switch is found on this stage. By the way, when you suck in 2 or more abilities at the same time, it kind of does a roulette where you don't necessarily know which one you're going to get in that situation. So try to make it a point not to suck in more than one ability when you care to actually get one or the other. So just something to keep in mind. The next hidden switch is outside of this next area. After we go through the door here. And this, again, is going to look a lot like the architecture of the final stage in Mario 2. But yeah, knock through these star blocks here. Head over to the right quickly, otherwise that'll lock you in. Need to be able to get to that right door, and there's that switch. Second switch, and we've activated another one of those egg mini games, which I do enjoy those. They're a very difficult one to get a perfect on, in my experience, but we have the light enemies in here. If we want to get some lights, we can suck them in and activate that, but you can still see the outlines of these enemies. Not too difficult. See, there's the roulette, as it just kind of throws everything into a blender at that point. Grab the high jump from this guy. Very useful here, obviously. One of the rare instances where the high jump is especially useful. But we're coming up on that next boss. Before we do it, let's hit that egg mini game. The egg catcher. See how many we can get this time. It's tricky because they vary the timing, the speeds at which he throws some of the eggs, but especially the bombs, which can catch you off guard if you're expecting that arc, and then he just tosses one of those bombs, kind of like a bullet coming right at you. See, I usually hover around that 3 or 4 mist range. It's enough to bum DDD out, so guess that's a win. Again, with the wrestling theme right there. Makes sense with the king. He uses a lot of those moves. Anyway, let's throw it back to Gary for the next boss.
Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, final boss of this section. You want to suck in the stars and fire them at the sun. Avoid being under the sun when you're fighting the moon, and then suck in the stars when that sun kind of torrent hits the ground on the sides of it. Jump over both of them when they charge. Just repeat the process. You'll take them both down.
Good call. Thank you, Gary. Getting those shots through. Staying to the side. We're generally pretty safe. Heading on to the 4th level here, Grape Garden. There's 3 hidden switches to be found in this level. First one is in the first stage of this level right here. We also have another chance of getting a UFO if we act quickly. Sometimes the challenge of actually getting the UFO ability is actually sucking in the UFO because it moves so quickly and not always in the same area as it appears on the screen, but Yeah, as soon as we go through this door right here, there's going to be one which is going to appear generally to the right. Just be ready to suck in right there to get it quickly before it exits the screen. And then the hidden switch in this stage right here is hidden behind that kind of cluster of stars you can see right there. So if we just do the supercharge, just tap up right there. It's difficult to see / entirely hidden, so it's just kind of a giveaway, I guess, if they have that star block there, that extra one, to let you know that they're hiding something there. So hit that switch to continue on towards getting the 100%. You can avoid a lot of these enemies just by moving around quickly with our UFO, but that's the last we get to enjoy it until the next one, sadly. So we have another crane game. I'm going to skip that one again. It's just a little slow pace for my liking, and again, too much luck involved. So we'll move on. This kind of reminds me of maybe a little bit of Little Nemo, like the Cloudlands to a certain extent. Those stages, or parts of that stage, in some of these areas. This is another bit of a maze. Show you the most direct route to get out of here. There's no hidden switch to be concerned about in this one. Just trying to find the most efficient route to get out of here. A hidden door underneath the block. If you need to grab yourself a Maxim tomato to top off your health, do so right there. Love all these little poppies. Little poppy brothers here. Very cute. Get the needle attack, I think our first instance of that. Bit of a Needleman type instance, and we have, I guess, 2 instances of the Poppy Brothers Senior. Let's bring in Gary, see if the strategy is any different.
Boss, Poppy Bros. It's important to just focus on one of them. The sliding works for avoiding the damage when they're jumping, coming at you. But just focus on one, suck in their bombs, fire them back at them. When you take down one, inhale them, you'll get the crash ability, and just use that to take the other one down immediately.
Love the crash ability. Thank you very much, Gary. Grab yourself an extra one on the way out from the other guy. That one will carry over. I think we have another quick draw minigame coming up. Let's see if we can try to anticipate that final shot. Getting to the king isn't too difficult. As long as your reflex skills aren't completely shot. Probably would have been a lot better at this as a kid. Maybe knocked a couple numbers off my time, but 13. It's about the best I've shown so far. I like the hats are just all over the place. There you go, 12. Definitely trending in the right area if we're going to take down the king, but again, it's all anticipation at that point if you want to have any chance. Yes. All right. New best time. Yeah, there's nothing natural about getting a 3 in that instance. I'd be curious, class, leave a comment if by the way, there's another hidden switch we need to find in this one. We can use our crash ability actually at the start right here to light this fuse to make this a little bit easier. Otherwise, you need to grab the flame from that other enemy, and then once you light that fuse, run over here and just jump in the cannon. Grab yourself a 1-up. Later, there's a much trickier type of fuse situation, which is necessary for getting to the hidden area. But yeah, class, leave a comment if you've, just based on pure reflexes alone, if you've been able to take down the king in that way. Certainly doubt that you'd be able to post a better time than 3 when it comes to that, based on reaction speed alone. There's just some gambling involved, but anyway, for the Zeppelin here, just go all the way to the top, all the way to the right, and then drop down once you reach the end. Go through that hole right there to find the hidden switch. Not too difficult. And we gotta fly against the wind here, so it's probably, you're better off staying on the ground here. Mind the cannon kind of blends in a little bit. Got that high jump again. I think falling into those turbines would hurt you, but the warp star to get away from this madness. And on to the exit. Alright, we have another couple stages before we need to worry about another hidden switch, so while we're working through those, got another one up there, bringing our total up to a nice, very healthy 27 lives right now. Feeling pretty good. See what we've unlocked here. We have another museum we can go to. I think this has the very useless sleep ability. We'll show you what it does. You use this and Kirby literally falls asleep. There are some instances later on where this can be a serious liability. There's no upside for this ability. It's just typically, it would be nice if you could catch some shut-eye and maybe get some health back in the process, but no, it just puts you to sleep. There's a boss a little bit later on where you can, among the other abilities that they launch out at you, potentially, you can grab the sleep, and there's a lot of places to fall to your death, so yeah, the sleep can very much cost you in that battle. I'm sure Gary will mention it, but fight another Bugzzy here. It's difficult to get both of those bugs in that instance, get both shots off. There we go, we got our Maxim Tomato, got the backdrop ability moving forward. Mostly just wanted that health, but yes, anyway, as we're pressing forward, we got a couple stages right here where we don't need to worry about any hidden switches. Let's bring back in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Kirby's Adventure. Fluff?
At 6 megabits, Kirby's Adventure has the distinction of being the largest game to be featured on the NES. To put that number in perspective, the average AAA title today is roughly 100 gigabytes, which translates to 800,000 megabits.
Good lord. Yeah, we've come a long way, haven't we? But yeah, I mean, even for its time, like he's at 6 megabits, very large. I think it's fascinating to me. Just grab the wheel right here. We can ride this down. Just use it to just turn whenever you need to. Works pretty well. Pretty responsive. Don't worry, it's not a rat race Battletoad situation where we need to worry about getting down to the bottom before that little burning bit to take out the columns there. It actually works in our favor. We have another new boss right here. Wheel might not be the best ability for it, but Gary, who we got?
Alright, Shelatoss. You want to keep your distance and be ready to jump when he's charging at you. Inhale the enemies he launches out at you, fire him back at him. Pretty much the strategy for a lot of these bosses, come to think of it, but just repeat the process, you'll take him down.
Good call, Gary, thank you. Yeah, just to finish that thought, get sidetracked a lot when you're playing Kirby's Adventure, but it's just kind of fascinating to me, the abilities which different developers were able, the potential they were able to achieve from the NES. We get the throw ability from Shelatoss, very fitting, actually. Another very rare ability, actually. You can see what it does right there. We can use it to access the next area. You don't need it, we can just use the breath and whatnot, but we can also aim the tosses in each situation. Get out of here with your lesser ability. We get another one up. Can we get to 29? Not today. Alright, that's alright. Then you also think of games like, I don't know, I had one of the Call of Duty, I think Black Ops one of the Black Ops games and bought all the expansion, like the zombie maps and everything. It's a good time, but just the idea being that it's, with all those expansions and everything, I think the overall size of the game bloated to something like 150 gigabytes. Pretty common by today's standards, but just, yeah, compared to this, kind of crazy. But yeah, it's the same hardware, obviously, that was playing some of the original. This is kind of difficult to drop down here. You see there's a hidden door right here. You can go in it and grab yourself a 1-up. And then just pop back out. That's the only reason to go in there for. We have a stone ability if you want it. But yeah, it's, you know, the same system where you had just some of the earliest, most rudimentary games, you know, just a lot of the black box titles that were fun, nonetheless, you know, in many cases, some more than others, but just crazy, you know, the exact same system and so much more potential realized from it, just stretching the system to its limits here in Kirby's Adventure, but I digress once again. Good fact, Fluff. I guess that's what I'm trying to say from probably 5 minutes ago at this point. Also one of the later titles released for the NES in 1994, when most developers had moved on to the Super Nintendo, obviously. System having, you know, been released, I think, like 3 years before this, so yeah, most people were playing Super Nintendo by that point, myself included. Played a lot more Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy, my brother's Game Boy, than I did, so close that time, than I did Kirby's Adventure. Played this one a little later in life, but anyway, the next stage has the final hidden switch, which we need to activate here in Grape Garden. It's actually kind of difficult to find. It's hidden in the dark, so if you know where to go, obviously a lot easier, unless you have the light ability to turn things on. In one of the upcoming areas here. Grab ourselves a sword for doing battle with the next mini-boss. I think it's another Mr. TikTok, actually. Yep. Let's give him some stabs here, I guess, when he gets close. Sword not always the best move for a lot of the bosses. Just grab what they give you. Get that mic ability. Like it's like a 3-use crash. I don't think it's quite as powerful. But anyway, use one here to clear out these enemies. Hug this wall as you drop down and go right inside to find the hidden switch, the final one for Grape Garden. Also, as a nice little added bonus, we get all of our health back after we use one of those, or collect one of those, or hit one of those hidden switches. There's the light enemy right there. If you want to use that, it'll brighten up the rooms. You can see that hidden switch if you were to go back, if you were thinking, hey, maybe I missed something there. But as long as you know where it is, you can go in there regardless. I believe there were a number of abilities that they had planned for the game which didn't make it in. Kind of reminds me of another game we did a class on about a year ago, In a Boy and His Blob, where you have a number of abilities which you can, the blob can take on, and some of which they just tested and just stuck with their favorites, basically kept them in the game. It's the same thing with this. All the abilities they came up with didn't quite make it into the final version of the game. To get that one up, you want to hit that leftmost switch, unstone yourself, hit the rightmost switch. That will launch it up by 1, and then hit this final one, and it'll pop it up one more time. Kind of feels like a bubble bobble type situation a little bit there. Maybe just how the enemies popped out into different areas. Kirby does have a ladder climbing animation, by the way, for what it's worth, but don't see it a whole lot, given the fact that he can fly on demand. There we go. 31 lives. Baskin-Robbins has their 31 flavors. Kirby's got its 31 lives. One heck of a cushion to call on here. We're still working on a no-death run. Coming up on the next boss here, we can suck in this first guy to get the high jump ability, and we're just gonna, as quickly as possible, use the high jump to keep climbing higher and higher until we get to the top level. If you do fall between the gaps, make sure you inhale and get some air in you to start flying. Sometimes you can miss these touchdowns as you're trying not to take any damage from these enemies. But anyway, reaching the top, let's go back to Gary.
Boss Kracko, you want to keep the distance when he attacks. Use that high jump immediately when he finishes that attack to jump through him. Repeat this process. Very satisfying using that high jump to deal big damage to Kracko.
Good call, Gary. Thank you very much. Kind of reminds me of the Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu game from Capcom. Very satisfying action combat platformer game. The fourth level, I believe, the boss takes place. It's in the clouds. Actually, it's a giant cloud-like monster, and you can bounce really high off the clouds, and you have to kick him in the eye. Always think when a game like this released very late in the cycle of a system that it was probably influenced by at least some of the games which preceded it, but anyway, halfway through the game. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you.